Hotel workers, what is the worst thing you have found in a room after a guest stay? I worked at an 800-year-old castle hotel in the UK. This young guy checked in for the weekend, paying cash for everything. Hookers were coming in and out of the hotel asking for room 46 and he kept ordering room service. He didn't leave the room for 3 days. He phoned reception, in distress asking for help. I went up with my manager, opened the door and there he was, room trashed, the biggest bag of cocaine I have ever seen and condoms everywhere. I can't feel my legs, he kept shouting. We got him an ambulance. Every man dies. Not every man really lives. A syringe under a mattress, after I felt a prick on the end of my finger. I was tucking in a sheet under the bed, and there were actually 2 uncovered insulin needles under there. I got rushed to hospital, hepatitis shots and a tetanus shot, 2 different HIV prevention medication for a month, monthly blood tests for about a year. I'm fine, and it barely stuck me in truth, but I was already afraid of needles and disease. I still feel traumatized. I was not going to post it all, but I've always wondered if there was anything else I should have done. The doctors assured me that they were more precautious than necessary. Empty boxes of fried chicken and the bones laying all over the floor between beds, white powder on the dresser and a lamp thrown through the glass door dividing 2 rooms of a suite once. Dirty diapers and birthday cake smashed into the walls. People get really shitty when you have to kick them out for trying to have a party. I think the only one that tops that was a guest's corpse. Full disclosure, I wasn't the one who found that. The guy downed a 1/5 of wild turkey and a bottle of pills. Never found out why. For those with dark humor though, we Googled him afterwards and found out he owned a funeral home. My manager asked me why he would bother to do it in the hotel considering that I was the one who found out about that, and my first response was, you never mix your business with pleasure. Old couple checked out and left a huge box of sex toys. Not that bad, right? We keep items for 90 days, hotel gets first dibs after that, say it's an iPad that would be good for something, then whoever found it gets second dibs, then general manager, then it's whoever wants it. Head housekeeper kept them locked in her desk BC she wanted first dibs and was scared someone else would take them. One time a dildo was left in a room at the hotel I work at. Not a big deal, it happens. Nobody claimed it, so the housekeepers wrapped it up and gave it to one of the older ladies who worked in laundry as a gag gift. The only thing is, she thought it was a legitimate gift and was about to take it home until they explained it was a joke. Woman with mysophobia, fear of germs, stayed with us. She never let the cleaning ladies into the room as she preferred to clean it herself. One day she leaves to go out and removes the "do disturb" sign. Maid calls down and says the room has a strong chemical odor and found bags of pee and poop in the drawers. A dead body. Someone ended up killing themselves in the hotel room by hanging themselves in the closet. Was in there a few days before we found him. Wait, how did they go a few days without finding it? No housekeeping? He locked the door from the inside. Housekeeping couldn't get in. They didn't really think anything about it at first. Then after a few days they called security to break the door down to get in. That's when we found him in the closet and everything made sense. Dead bodies and shit seemed to be the winning themes. Worked at an upscale ski resort. One family let their toilet training kid pee behind the toilet and under the sink throughout their whole visit, then put our white towels on top of it to help clean up the mess. Whole place smelled like a freaking rhino enclosure. Ruined the towels. I had an elderly couple check in one afternoon. A couple hours go by and the husband comes up saying the wife is sick and they need to leave immediately. Given the circumstances, we figured it would be a quick clean, so we refunded the money and downed the room for the night. The next morning we tell one of our maids to hit it first since we knew it was empty. The maid came back refusing to clean the room because there was shit all over the bathroom. I didn't really believe her because she tended to be lazy. So I decided to check it out myself. She wasn't lying. There was shit everywhere. I don't know how, but there was shit on the toilet seat, on the tank, under the vanity and on the wall under the vanity, on the floor next to the toilet, on the wall behind the toilet, and on the side of the bathtub. This lady must have blown out her asshole while falling over to shit how and where she shit. The smell was horrendous. I ended up having to clean it. I went through 3 bottles of our strongest cleaner plus an entire garbage bag of cleaning rags which were immediately trashed. We had to down the room another 5 nights with the use of 5 bottles of air freshener and open windows. I'll never forget that. Edit, hi ho, silver and gold. I always knew my first gold would be a shitty story. Now to answer a few questions. I went in wearing rubber gloves and a mask. The motel had one of those small masks for smoke, but I had to use 3 bandanas and leave the room every few minutes. We did not charge the elderly couple for the mess. It was a small motel on the coast, oceanfront, and our bosses were high on keeping a good reputation to keep the repeat customers. Some of you have suggested Clostridioides difficile or a colostomy bag. I think it could have been either of those. A bachelorette party came through, and after they left the next night we had a new rule that charges a $400 glitter fee. But I mean, you couldn't see the floor, so much glitter. It's been a few years and you can probably still find glitter in the carpet throughout the hotel. 2 worst experiences I had to witness were, a couple came to the desk early in the morning. They clearly had been in an all-out fist fight. They were a cash-paying customer and all they said was, "Sorry, we got in a fight, there is blood in the room, we are HIV positive." Then they took off. Room was an absolute horror show, had to hire special cleaners to come gut the room and ended up replacing basically everything in the room. Room was out of commission for almost a year. Same hotel, we had some wards of the state type staying. Worst were a couple with a newborn. They couldn't afford basically anything, so made the decision to use our towels as diapers. The state wouldn't let us kick them out and they were just taking the towels off the carts. Ended up having to evict them from the hotel as they had been there long enough to establish residency. The duality of man. Awful enough to beat the hell out of someone you love, but enough empathy and compassion to warn others and protect them from contracting a lifelong illness. People are strange. A USB drive with 2 different versions of their obituary that they typed up for themselves. In their defense, I've had a few psychology and sociology courses where I've had to write my own obituary. Grim, but points are points. Unfortunately, there's a lot more to the story and it wasn't for a class. Fortunately, they did leave the property at checkout. A little late, but I have too. Found bloody parrot feathers all over a room. They claimed it was service animal, it wasn't, and had gotten too stressed and pulled all of its plumage out. The guest tried to blame the hotel for noise. We charged them for the cleanup. Was balancing month end one day when the front was swarmed with police cars. They raided a room with no notice to us at the front desk. Turned out a pimp was cooking meth in one of rooms with 2 prostitutes and a dog. There was a short standoff before everyone was arrested. Their car was seemingly forgotten about in the parking lot, but it disappeared a week later. We were unable to charge for damages since all of their cards were stolen. A pimp with a meth cooking team made up of 2 prostitutes and a dog? Sounds like a great TV show. Not a worker, but once my family checked into our hotel and go to our room and open it up only to find a very mortified naked man sitting on the couch watching TV. Made eye contact and just backed out of there. He has the same exact name as me, so that's where the mess up came about. A blood-soaked Dora the Explorer doll. There were no kids in the room, as far as we know. It was just one dude in his mid-30s. There were 2 cans of Monster Energy drink beside it and $180 left in tips under the pillow. No idea what was going on. Edit, yes, the cops were called. It was really weird, because at first they seemed pretty satisfied that nothing crazy went down, but then all the cops assigned to the case started to go missing one by one. Then, on the anniversary of their disappearances, a blood-soaked doll was delivered to the police station. 8 dolls in total. And the creepiest thing about it was that 3 of the cops had children. Those children's names were stitched into 3 of the dolls. Okay, that part about the missing cops was made up. But really though, I didn't really deal with the cops directly. I gave my statement about how we found the room, they sent me home, and that was the only time I talked to them. It was a summer job, so I went back to school about a month and a half later, but when I left, our understanding was that everything was okay. If anything came to light after I left, I was not made aware of it. But I feel like since I never had to talk to the cops again, they were satisfied that nothing super crazy went down. Also, geez, you guys sure are confident that doll was in an ass. $180. Was worth it? I mean, yes, totally worth it. But holy smokes, I have so many questions and none of my answers are good. It was a hallway. I worked the front desk. A little league baseball team was staying the night and a guest complained to my manager about bats flying around. My manager assumed the baseball team was just being rowdy and headed up to tell them to calm down. Turns out it wasn't baseball bats. Just a normal old flying bat hanging out in the hallway. I've had this same issue. A guest came down while I was setting up breakfast to tell me a bat was flying on 3rd floor. Thought she was mistaken because it seemed impossible to me. Not wrong. Bat just flying up and down the hallway, roosting on the curtains for a few minutes whenever it became too tired to keep flying. I lucked out and had a farmer show up who had to deal with this multiple times. Threw a towel over M and shook it out the window. I had no idea how to handle it and was just useless outside of telling people to mind the bat. Not sure if I'd rather have a bat or a rowdy baseball team though. Less upset guests with a bat. Worst to clean up, not because it was gross, but because it was annoying and time consuming, was popcorn. A baseball team stayed in a couple rooms and I guess they had those like caramel popcorn balls that they had just thrown all over the room. At the walls, furniture. It stuck to the carpet and was almost impossible to vacuum. A friend used to clean hotel rooms as a side job. Once he found a shit on the nightstand with a slice of cheese on top. Another time, he went into a room to clean and this woman was lying on the bed naked. He apologized and started to leave. She offered him €50 to spit on her while she masturbated. He spat on her. Edit. They found out who it was and charged him extra for cleaning, etc. Also banned him from the chain. Apparently, this wasn't the only hotel he would furnish with his nightstand-based sliced dairy fecal top deposits. I worked at a hotel a few years ago, front desk. I checked out a nice couple in the morning. They were very friendly, said they enjoyed their stay. Then housekeeping got to their room. The poor woman looked shell-shocked. I got to go through the room with a camera and my supervisor to document the state of the room. 2 large, black, double-headed dildos, lots of Ziploc baggies with powdery residue, syringes, some used, some still with caps on them, including 2 in the toilet, and more travel-sized bottles of baby oil than I could count. We also found what appeared to be feces and blood smeared all over the bedding and walls and a small digital camera. Police were called, descriptions of them taken, and all their information they had used to check in. I quit soon after, so I don't know if they ever found them or pressed charges. Pizza. And not just like leftovers. An entire pizza. And not a single slice of it in the box. The first red flag we found was the slice of pizza smeared all over on the TV. Then we saw 2 slices side by side like they had worn them for slippers and dragged their feet across the floor. 1 slice in the dresser, 1 in the nightstand, 1 in the sheets, and 1 in the bathroom sink. We cleaned the room as normal and put all the pizza in the box. The whole time I'm wondering, why someone would do this? Was the pizza not good? Was 1 slice enough and you had to buy the whole thing? I'm doing the final checks in the room and it still smells like pizza. I flick the lamp on and look for the final slice. I finally find it, shadowed in the lampshade. This individual had smeared the last slice on the inside of the lampshade. That was the final piece of the puzzle, or pizzazool. This person bought an entire pizza just to hide it in his hotel room. Every comment has the motivation for this act wrong. It was absolutely, 100% a fetish thing. Believe it or not, some people only get off from very specific things like smearing pizza on the ground. Don't believe me? Search pizza stomping on YouTube and see what kind of videos you get. 25 years ago I worked at a snooty part of a snooty ski resort in Park City, Utah. Most of the regular guests were just typical old rich white dudes, but during Sundance season though, the celebrities come out. There is a certain musician, entertaining us for decades now, who has a disgusting hobby. Or did in the early 90s at least. Next time you're cutting footloose, or getting close to the danger zone, just know that Kenny Loggins gives his entire family coffee ground enemas, which leaves a giant mess, and leaves it for the hotel staff to clean up. Twice in one stay. I was in housekeeping for a while in the winter and a coworker of mine found a poop in a condom tied to the microwave door. Definitely the most baffling thing I'd heard of anyone finding. Pooping in a condom. Sounds like that could be a new type of Olympic game. My ex-wife projectile vomited all over a room at the La Quinta in Somerville after way too many SoCos at the Rattlesnake. I cannot drive 93 northbound out of Boston without some degree of shame. Sorry, La Quinta workers. I did the best I could, but there was only so much that could be done. Also, this is one of the many reasons she is now my ex-wife. Projectile. Not much you can do to save the relationship with someone like that. It was exorcist levels of vomit. A bear. First, you gotta understand that a lot needs to happen for this to occur. Our lowest floor was still about 1.5 meters from the ground, and each outside room had a balcony rail. However, A guest had decided to want to unload his motorcycle from his truck and leave the ramp down, so, I'm assuming, he could ride the bike up when he was done. The guest that was staying in the room had room service, decided to leave the food uncovered and the balcony doors open, and later went to the hotel pool/spa to relax. Upon returning, they had gone to us at reception and said that there was a bear in the room. Puzzled, we quietly approached the room and slowly opened the door. Lo and behold, there was a bear eating room service and making a mess of my afternoon. We called Parks Canada to deal with it. Guest was not charged a cleaning fee. It was a family retreat/kids' birthday party. The adults were getting shit-faced while the kids were in the presidential suite raising hell. They had decided to have a fully stocked ice cream bar and allowed the kids to do what they wanted with it. M&Ms crushed into the carpet, chocolate footprints on the walls, whipped cream fucking everywhere. Fruit punch spilled on the bed. In total we had to charge them about $7,000 in damages, which they took to court, because they thought the cleanup would be included. That's why we did it at a hotel. They also smashed glass all over our dog hiking trail, which I had to clean up. To be honest, I'd expect an even higher charge for doing damages like this to a hotel. It's not only the cost of repair, but the room will have downtime. They initially sued for hire. I believe the lawyer said $25,000, but got $7,000 in court fees. So at least there's that. One of my favorite hotel stories, not a room, but the pool. It's late evening, and a woman comes angrily into our lobby from the pool with 3 children and says, "You guys need to do something about what's going on out there," and gestures to the pool area. I look at her inquisitively and she just says, "Go look, you'll see." I walk outside and it's pretty immediately clear the couple in the hot tub are discreetly having sex. I approach just enough to get their attention and say, "Hi guys, I know everyone's here to have a good time tonight, but we got a complaint about some hot and heavy activity in the hot tub." They're clearly intoxicated, but apologize and say it will stop. A few minutes later, the phone rings. It's the woman who complained before calling from her room which faces the pool. They're still at it. "You need to do something, children are staying in this hotel." I go back outside and sure enough, now that the spectators are gone, they're fucking it out in the hot tub. I go back out, tell them to get out. They start giving me the story. It's their anniversary, they're very sorry, we won't have any more problems with them, etc. etc. I foolishly let them stay in the hot tub. 10 minutes later, phone rings. Seriously? Same lady. I look out the window, they're both totally naked. "I'm sorry, ma'am, I've warned them, I'm calling the police." Police arrive and head out to the pool. The officer handles it like a pro. He's very nice, lets them know that it's inappropriate, but he doesn't want to ruin what's clearly a fun weekend for them both, but they need to go to their room and not come out for the rest of the night. They are to stay in their room until tomorrow morning. No excuses. The couple thanks him for his understanding and promises they'll behave and stay in their room. The officer and I wind up chatting and laughing about it all, and he asks if he can grab a cup of coffee in our lobby while he fills out his report. Of course he can. He's sitting in the lobby, I'm back to work, and I hear him say, "Oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me." I'm shocked at the broken quietness as I see him jump up and exit the lobby. Right to the hot tub, where the same couple is back in the hot tub making out. I can only assume they took the stairs at the end of the hall out to the parking lot and around to the pool. Arrested them both. They came back Monday afternoon. They were arrested on Friday night, to collect their property. Wow, you have to admire that level of horny determination. Not even a visit from the police could cool their ardor. All they had to do was fuck it out in the hotel room.